thanks for joining. My name is Tarryn, and I'll be taking you through some of the best applicant tracking systems for small businesses. Now, if you're not already familiar with an ATS or an applicant tracking system, it is simply a tool or a system designed to help you with recruitment functions, as well as, of course, applicant tracking. However, some of these systems can do a lot more than just that. Some of them can assist you with some HR functions, and outside of recruitment, you may want to assist your teams so that they're not spending a lot of additional time sifting through resumes and making calls to candidates to set up interviews or respond to unsuitable candidates. Now, another important function is that you can use an ATS as a central repository for this kind of information, specifically related to applicants and personal information. This is becoming more important in recent times, and I'd highly recommend looking at a tool like this to help you manage these. Now, ATSs can also assist you with a number of other functions. ATSs can help you reduce your overheads of managing job listings. They can also help you address documentation management, as well as providing a central repository. You can also manage the administrative burden of shortlisting hundreds of applicants. I'm all too familiar with this process. It is really time consuming. And a lot of these ATSs can help you auto-respond to candidates, set up interviews, and communicate via the platform, as well as make notes about the candidates. Now, a lot of these tools do have automated HR reporting, insights, and trend tracking, which is a really great tool. Now, there are a couple things to look out for in a great ATS. At a really high level, I will always recommend looking at ease of use and a short learning curve. Remember, you don't need to spend a lot of time setting up, configuring, and customizing a system that just needs to be simple. You don't want to spend a lot of time training new users or HR users or internal teams on a tool for many weeks or days. You'd like to get set up as quick as possible. You should also have the functionality to filter applications. Now, in a previous life, I cringe about going through all the manual processes of sifting through CVs, looking at every resume. Now, using strategic systems like these can help you filter out candidates that are not suitable for your positions, and they can help you create a shortlist. There are also some tools that lack deep automation features. However, I would recommend looking at those that have at least the bare essentials. This could be things like built-in applicant screening, being able to put in smart application questions, as well as manage communications, ideally those being customizable and automated. Remember, the bulk of time spent on these activities is essential to focus on because we want to reduce the time spent and make sure that you're still responding to candidates from within the platform. So I like tools like these that help us do that, as well as help you set up workflows and communication templates. Now, let's do a quick deep dive into some of my favorite systems that I'd recommend looking at. Okay, first up, we have Greenhouse. Now, a couple of these I'm going to go through at a really high level. You can kind of get a summary overview of what the tools are that they offer. But I am going to deep dive into some of my favorite tools and show you a bit about the platform and how it works so that you know what to look for when you are selecting an ATS. Now, Greenhouse has a lot of features. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I would recommend looking at these. They can assist with AI recruiting, talent sourcing, candidate experience. Now, focusing on that is really important, especially when you're looking in the ATS. Now, you want to make sure that you have a really fantastic experience when it comes to ease of applications, setting up automated interviews from within the system, and handling a really great, transparent hiring process. Greenhouse does a fantastic job of that. They're also one of the few systems that let you set up workflows from within their tool, which I really like. You are able to set up reminders like this and make sure that you've set these up in terms of what you're looking at for your department. They also help you with interviewing and decision making with regards to skills, adding information that may be important to you, and then from the recruitment process, going straight into the onboarding process. Now, this is also one of those handy tools where a lot of ATSs maybe just do the recruitment function. Greenhouse can assist you right through into the onboarding phase as well. They do have quite advanced reporting and analytics, so this is one of the few that are a good one to look at, especially if your organization needs quite advanced reporting. They also offer a really generous integration option. They do integrate with a number of the industry's best tools, so this is a great option to look at. Now, I know that the integration with Indeed can have its struggle. So someone who relies on seamless job posting, I did find this a bit of a hurdle. However, overall, it's a really great platform to look at. I do have to mention, though, that they have custom pricing plans. So I'm not a fan of any system that doesn't have transparent pricing on their website. So it is something just to keep in mind. But based on previous experience, I would say you could look at around about $6,500 per year per companies of about 1 to 10 employees. So if you are a large organization who does need something a bit more robust, it may be a great option for you. However, it does come at quite a cost. Now, Ashby is one of the new kids on the block, and I reckon that they're probably going to become one of the more popular ATSs as time goes on. They're really intuitive. They've got a really generous service offering at their price. And they do have really fantastic automation analytics dashboards. And from hearing from some of my colleagues, they have really great customer experience, which is really a huge value add at this point as well, especially if you are new to using an ATS. Now, as a great value add, they do have things like automated scheduling. So this can assist with calendar integrations. And from a candidate experience point of view, it's one of the few that really stand out. So you could see a bit more about them from their websites. You can hear from their customers. But overall, they've got a really solid ATS with different options in terms of their pricing plans. Now, their pricing starts at around about $300 per month for companies of about 1 to 10 employees, and they do offer a discounted rate for annual commitments. So if you haven't had a look at them before, I'd recommend giving them a shot, and seeing if it might be right for your business. All right, another one of my favorite platforms is Zoho Recruit. Now, really straightforward, really easy to use. I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive into this one. At first glance, it can look quite basic. I don't have a lot of test data here to use. However, you do have some really great basic dashboards. And don't be put off because they do have multiple customization options, which is excellent for small businesses with really unique requirements. Now we can see from the dashboard, it is really obvious in terms of where to go, how to add a new position. You could also import any job openings that you currently have. In terms of candidate management, you do have, I'm going to say, quite some basic service offerings when it comes to candidate steps. However, you can customize these as well. Of course, they do help you manage your interview process as well from within the app, which I think is great. And I know that they've recently added some new features like client portals, video interviews, but these do come at additional costs. Now, I do like that as smaller businesses scale, you can make use of add-on apps like Zoho Sales for marketing or their finance app called Zoho Books. So just keep this in mind that although Zoho Recruit does have the ATS functionality as well as a great mobile app, if you do want to build out additional functionality, you will need to pay for additional modules to help you manage that. Zoho likes to prefers to keep within its own ecosystem, so that is another thing to keep in mind. They also tend to have limited branding options on their lower tier plans, which can decrease your visibility when advertising, which I personally found quite limiting. I do like to have the option to add logos and customize colors and that kind of thing when advertising. However, that is something that shouldn't be too much of a limitation if you're looking for something really simple. Now, in terms of pricing, they do have a free option available. However, this does have limited functionalities. Their paid plans do start at around about $25 per user per month. So they are really reasonable in terms of that. And of course, looking at add-ons, you can simply go to Zoho Marketplace from within their tool. Jumping into one of my next favorite is Workable. Now, smaller businesses that need an ATS like Workable, this is great because this can be set up really quickly. This took me just a few minutes to set up in terms of the environment, does not require lengthy onboarding process, and they've got quite extensive integration capabilities with over 200 job boards, which is really impressive. Now, they do have some standout features like multi-language capabilities, so it allows you to translate your job posts, applications, and more into about 6 languages, which I find quite impressive. I also like that they allow you to have test data when you start, so you can get familiar with the platform. You could simply click around using their functionality. Of course, you can't do this with sample jobs. However, they do give you some data to work with, including candidate data, of course, being test data, to give you an idea of how this looks and feels. Now, in terms of being a smaller business, if you need a tool like this, it's got a bit more of a global reach. This is a good one for you because of their multi-language capability. And they've also got AI tools that help you save time when looking into candidate profiles that match your potential jobs. Now, the only downside I would say is that the paid for plans on lower tiers are pretty limited, as are the customization options. So the customer service response time could be also a little bit better from personal experience. However, overall, it's really hard to fault really great functionality within the tool. Again, does come at quite a cost at starting price of around about $249 per month for smaller companies of 1 to 20 employees. Of course, that goes up as you expand. Now jumping into one of my favorite tools that I've recently come across is NinjaGig. Now, NinjaGig is a really solid ATS. It is probably one of the simplest tools I've ever set up. It took minutes. It does allow you to have customized branding options, which I like. So in terms of your profile, you could simply just set this up. You can add your company details. You are able then to upload your logo. You are able to update your portal settings in terms of colors, which I really like. And one of my favorite things is that you are able to set up customized email templates, which is really great. This does input the candidate's first name, job titles, that kind of thing. So this is really fantastic. And I think especially for smaller businesses who are focused on candidate experience, this is a really huge plus when it comes to that. Now, again, customer support is fantastic. Ease of use is fantastic. In terms of adding positions, it just takes a few minutes. I do want to mention that they also integrate with a number of job boards. This is free, which I think is fantastic for unlimited job postings. They do integrate with Indeed, Jubal, Google Jobs, Monster, and a whole bunch more. And you are able to publish that once you are satisfied with your job posting, which is great. I also like that you're able to add customized application questions. You can save them and reuse them. So again, for smaller businesses, smaller teams, you don't have a lot of time to work with, this is a really great value add, saves you a lot of time. And they do have some pretty cool tips and tricks as well. They've got some QR codes as well as flyers that you can use to generate, save it on job posting, especially if you need to print out a job poster, for example. You could just simply paste this somewhere and pull candidates into the system like that. Now, I do want to mention that they do have reporting in place. However, it is quite basic. They have recently built out their dashboard, which is really fantastic. So you do get a really nice overview of some of the important information that is surfaced right for you. But if you do need advanced reporting and analytics in place, it might be a little bit limited. and also in terms of their functionality around workflows. That is something that is not yet in place as yet. However, you are able to email candidates and communicate with candidates just from within the app, which I really like as well. Now, in terms of pricing, they are impossible to beat. I have not seen such a great, well-rounded ATS at this price point. They do offer a 14-day free trial, so I recommend checking it out. Play around with the system, you'll see what I mean. Super easy to use. And thereafter, it is a rate of $49 per month, including unlimited job postings, which is amazing. So probably with small businesses in mind, this is probably one of the best in terms of cost and functionality that I would look at. Great, thanks for joining me today. I hope that this gives you some insight into my favorite ATSs for small businesses. Thanks.